Did you, John? What live show was that? As we begin, mixed martial mindset. If my thing is actually going to work. Oh, it is working. I'm just an idiot. Hi, everybody. How we doing? It's been a long day. As you know, I've done 24 videos in 24 hours. On the way there, about 6 left. And there's actually going to be 25 videos because we got some time changes mixed up on the West Coast. And as promised, I was still going to do Mixed Martial Mindset with John Fitch. And, John, you did your first live stream on which channel? Was this the Fitch and Tinkle Smash Everything?
Yeah, Fitch and Tinkle Smash Everything. We did our first live show up in Sacramento last night. It was fun.
That sounds awesome, man. So what did you guys do? You guys traveled, and then you did a live studio audience while you streamed to YouTube?
Well, we didn't. We just did the audio.
Okay. Oh, I got you.
It's kind of like a run through. Kind of wanted to see, if it's doable. Move it forward. So I think, hopefully we'll try to set something up. I think if we set something up, another one in San Jose, put a little more planning into it, it could be a really nice little show.
Well, that is exciting indeed. The more on the ground stuff that you can do to get yourself comfortable with this type of thing and get your name out there, the better. Before we get into all the subjects, the fights, which were big fights, actually the UFC card was pretty good, top to bottom, that I watched. Exciting, well-matched fights. And then with Overeem's lip exploding and making Robbie Lawler's lip cut look like a nick with 24 minutes and 54 seconds gone in the fight after doing such a good job of basically avoiding those big shots. He gets his lip shattered. An underwhelming rematch between Ruiz and Joshua, all that and more. But I want to remind people that you can find us on thegruelingtruth.com, our audio podcast. After this one, they usually air it the day after. You can find that on all separate venues. You can check John out at johnfitch.net. Up here at the top, you see his Instagram, his Facebook, but most importantly, his YouTube channel, which he's posting to 5+ times a week. Yeah, you're killing it on that. And you got any guests lined up for this next coming week, John?
I've got to... I'm working on one. I'm working on the psychic guy. I gotta get back to him. I get overwhelmed with all the little small crap I'm doing, and then the show on the weekend. I need to get bigger so I can have assistants.
I hear that again, and I'm doing the same exact thing.
If I had an assistant, I could just I could tell things too, and then they'd get things done. That would be great. But yeah.
Now, before we get into the main story that I wanted to go over here regarding Mark Hunt, the reason that I'm doing this 24 videos, now 25, in 24 hours is at midnight, YouTube's terms of service changes. And it changes so that they are at the sole discretion to get rid of any YouTube channel they like that they feel is not commercially viable. And unfortunately, Jason Burmis has never really been commercially viable, despite the fact that we're on our way to 40,000 subs. I've got a pretty good, strong, and growing audience. The question is, will we see a large purge on YouTube, not only on channels like this one, but from professional athletes like yourself, John?
Everything's it's weird, man. Like I haven't, my Twitter a year ago was 136,000. And then it dropped. I lost like 4,000 or 5,000 followers, and then it goes up 100, down 100, up 100. Like it won't move past that 131 right now. And then my Instagram, like I busted my butt, got it up to like around 12,000, and it's just flatlined. It hasn't moved in several months. It's like there's weird stuff going on, I feel.
Well, I'll say this. I've never had a day where I put out just like 5 to 7 videos and not gained 20 to 100 subscribers that day. That's from 5 to 7 videos. Yeah. This video right here is number 19 for the day. I think that I'm up a total of 8 subscribers since yesterday, which is extremely suspicious to me.
Yeah,
and, I've had other big YouTubers on. We had Gary Franchi from the Next News Network with over 1.29 million subscribers discussing how he was actually in the Project Veritas leaks, the Google Don't Be Evil leaks, being downranked. So we talked about that. I have Graham Elwood coming up, who's often on the Jimmy Dore show, and he's really exploded.
I met Graham a long time ago in San Jose. It was a 420 comedy show on the San Jose State campus.
Was Doug Benson also there?
Doug Benson was there. My friend Chris Nickel got me to the show. And I got a T-shirt. I got one of a Graham's T-shirts, the yellow belt T-shirt.
Well, I will. Oh yeah, because he does like the karate.
The karate. He took the karate class or whatever, and he got his yellow belt. So.
Well, that's awesome.
Fan of Graham. He's got some good stuff out there.
Definitely mention that to him. And Graham is in. I haven't seen the greatest movie ever rolled, but I saw the first one, Super High Me, with Doug Benson, and that's a really fun documentary where Doug, what is it? He gets high for 30 days in a row, right?
Every day, all day,
all day, and then he goes sober for 30 days, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, he has to set it. He has to set the whatever. So he had to go clean for a month just to see his regular, normal numbers, whatever his health, because he did a health check on everything.
Yeah, and I think it was also an IQ test too. I remember there was something there, and it wasn't a huge difference either way. So I'm looking forward to that. But this, other than the fact that it's also the 1-year anniversary of Conor McGregor's brutal beating, rape, sodomy, and anal rape of a woman, allegedly. Notice that the fight's 5 weeks out. There's not been a press conference in the T-Mobile Arena that's supposed to be hosting the event. Hasn't posted anything. It's really weird. It's really weird that we're 5 weeks out from one of the biggest fights in the world, and the arena that's hosting it has...
Yeah, it's only 5 weeks out. The biggest, one of the biggest names, the biggest draws in the sport. 5 weeks out, we haven't had a press conference. The hosting place hasn't made an announcement yet. So that seems
a little sketchy, doesn't it? A little fishy. January 18th. I don't know.
Little grouper, little tuna.
And talk about shady things. We got Mark Hunt. Now, Mark Hunt fought or tried to fight the good fight in court with the UFC for them putting him against a knowingly super juiced Brock Lesnar, who pummeled him for the better part of 3 rounds. I honestly, when I was going into that fight, I thought, well, Brock's layoff is too much anyway. It doesn't matter how much he juices. Mark Hunt has done a good job at, stifling big men before. He's got good striking. Not maybe the ground game that Brock had, but I didn't think he was going to overwhelm him the way he did. And he did. He overwhelmed him. And let's be honest, Mark Hunt and Brock Lesnar kind of saved that pay-per-view because the Jones DC debacle had happened, and that was the headliner for 200. So, Hunt takes the fight. Years later, through 2 separate court rulings, he loses, and now the UFC is suing him for $388,000 to try to recoup legal fees. Number one, I can only imagine how you feel about this.
This is just it's just a message, right? It's a message don't dare come after us. How dare you push back against our business at hand, right? We're gonna destroy you. And they're showing and telling every other fighter out there that, hey guys, if you come at us, we'll sink you.
So with that being said, John, do you think that he's got a snowball's chance in hell in not finding a ruling against him, or do you think the UFC is going to win this?
He's fine until we develop some kind of backstop that gives athletes in our sport some kind of leverage. They get to do whatever they want. He's fucked. Everybody's fucked. We try to have this conversation with him, the Fighters Association, and Hunt and his lawyer, whatever. And same thing with.
Well, tell us about that conversation because you obviously have your
with the
thing
girl
going
too.
on.
And they want to do their own thing. They think they know better. They think they'll be faster and get better results their way. And they wouldn't listen to reason or our plan or our idea on how to get things done. If Leslie would have jumped on board and Hunt would have jumped on board with the fighters that already had stuff in motion, we all would have started pulling the rope in the same direction. Things would have happened a lot better. We would have been a one unit moving forward. But instead you get all these people pulling in different directions, kind of going their own way, and the UFC flexes and destroys them. It gets rid of them, and that's exactly what we said they would do. It's just frustrating to tell people exactly what's going to happen, and then it happens, and then everybody's surprised.
And look, Mark, has made some money in the UFC. I've seen some of his paydays at $500,000, et cetera, but we all know big time taxes come out of that. The UFC's not helping with your trainers, your support, your team, travel. A lot of that money gets spent. He's fought well into his 40s now. I wouldn't be surprised, like a lot of these fighters, if 388,000 doesn't bankrupt him. Or the legal fees.
It's a very, very strong possibility because even the guy who's really budgeted his fight well, like you're looking at 50%, 55% of your purse gone the second the fight's over, with taxes and paying your coaches out. Like I pay 10% management, 10% to the gym, so that's 20% right there, and then you've got about 33% federal income tax, so you're looking at 53% right now, and then you got California tax, another 13% on top of that. You're looking at 66% of your revenue is gone by the time the fight's over with. And if you're not good with your money and you're overspending for your training camp, which a lot of guys do, they'll have a bunch of guys come in from out of town, they'll have their diet coach, they'll have all this other shit that they kind of might not need, and they spend money like a boxer who's making millions for the training camp, and then you end up leaving the guy with like 20 grand after one of those fights. It's not a good. Like, people think that we've progressed as far as other sports, as far as pay and shit's gone, just because we're on the same tier as far as visual. Like, we're on ESPN, we're talked about, we're everywhere, So people automatically just assume that we're making the same money that the other professional athletes are.
It's not even close. If you look at Ruiz, he got a $10 million payday, and Joshua got a $60 million payday. That's $70 million to two fighters. And the undercard.
Well, I didn't even look. Yeah, what was the undercard? There's probably some guys in the undercard that had less than 10 fights that were making six figures.
Yeah. I mean, Povetkin, it ended up being a draw. I forget who he fought, but he fought a cruiserweight champion that was coming up to heavyweight. It was an interesting fight. It ended up being a majority draw. So, it's boxing, and it was a tough call. But even those guys probably made more. I haven't seen what Overeem made to lose half of his lip and make, like I said, Robbie Lawler's lip cut look like a shaving nick. I've never seen anything like that. I mean, the instant he was punched, his lip exploded off his face, and the side of his mouth looked like a feral dog. He
looked like Harvey Dent in the hospital.
I mean, guys, you're going to get to decide for yourself, but you take a look at this. I mean, is that worth the money? I mean, he didn't stick around. He was still conscious when he was knocked down, but he was still a little loopy. Mergliotta saved him for half of his face, possibly getting torn off. But Rosenstruck also walked away. And, I got to say, Overeem looked pretty good in the fact that he pick and chose his shots. He didn't get tuned up too badly. He was hitting Rosenstruck, but every time he hit him, even with the biggest overhand right, I didn't even see Rosenstruck blink, or Rosenstrike, however you want to say it. I was shocked at how durable the guy was. I definitely want to see him in there again with some of the top tier heavyweights. However, his wrestling wasn't challenged. So, Overeem did a good job in the first round. First of all, no one thought this was going 5. And Overeem crowded him. He didn't let him get his distance. In the first round, he took him down. In the second round, he still crowded him up against the cage. In my opinion, it was anybody's fight going into the scorecards. I haven't seen what the scorecards were before that. But, come on. If Overeem's not getting paid $3 million, which I promise you he's not on a fight night card, is that worth it?
That's nuts.
And let's look at that card, because it was actually a pretty...
I wrestled with a guy at Purdue, and his family kept bulls, and he would ride bulls in the summer, and he got a horn, went up the lip, filleted his face open.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That scar's got to be there forever.
Yeah, it's... he's got the little snarled lip now, but yeah, it's wild.
Don't ride bulls, everybody. Anyway.
Yeah. Do not.
No.
I almost did that. I almost, we were all talking smack. Yeah, we're going to ride bulls. So we drove out to the thing, and it rained that day. And his dad was walking the bulls past the cars, and everybody's like just silent because these things are huge. And I guess the joke is that they're like old bulls anyway, so they're not even that hard to ride, but I wasn't getting on one.
You're a smart man, John. You're a smart
man.
They're
like, oh, it's raining. We can't ride today because it's muddy. We're like, oh, well, too bad. Those bulls were lucky. Woo, those bulls are so lucky. Like the next week, I didn't see anybody like at the lifting weights, like everybody was hiding out because nobody wanted to get called out to go and ride bulls.
After they saw it in person,
after you saw it in person, you see the size. It's the size of your car. It's the size of my Buick. I was like, okay, maybe I don't want to ride this thing.
Let's look at some of the other fights on this last thing. It looks like they're trying to prop up this Marina Rodriguez. Not the best fight. She definitely won it. Cavejo came in 5.5 pounds over, which was ridiculous. The Rothwell-Struve fight almost went, into the third round. He gets caught at the end of the second, but after 2 really hard groin strikes, it didn't look like Stefan Struve was going to get up from. Struve took way more than 5 minutes on the first one, and he definitely took his 5 on the second one. And I know he was pissed off about losing that fight, but I mean, when you're that tall, it wasn't like they were straight shots. It was Struve coming away, and they were long kicks that were trying to get to the body. And I can't fault Rothwell for that. I mean, he's in his 40s, he's a veteran, and he looked like he was trying to get the W. And the fact is, John, when you are getting half of your pay on a W, of course you're going to rush the guy after the 5 minutes and try to take him out, because that's half your fucking pay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's it's not a good situation. That's one of the stupidest. That's one of the stupidest things. I can't believe that's still a thing. Is like you get show win money.
Yeah, and it's a thing on almost all the fights, and especially when you max out now on your Reebok deal with I think 16 to 20 fights. And you make, 15 grand? That's the top? I mean, come on. Mid-tier fighters in the mid-2000s into 2010 were doing much better in the $15,000 to $100,000 range, depending on how the hustle was. Guys like
100%.
Schaub were doing 70 grand,
Yeah.
So
if you knew how to work it, because there was plenty of small mom and pop shop sponsors around that would pay you $2,500 to $5,000 to wear a patch on your shorts and on your banner, and you may be the only person that they sponsor in anything. But that's gone.
Now on the preliminary card, Tim Means took out Thiago Alves. Not a lot of shocks there, but Thiago looked good until he finally got caught. He looked like he was in shape, took it seriously. Means has been active, and although he's traded wins and losses, I was kind of expecting him to take this one. The fight that got me was Bryce Mitchell in the second ever twister submission in UFC history. Grabbed Matt Sales, and when they were saying he was doing it, I was like, no way he's going to get that. And then as soon as he got his arm around the back of his neck and clinched in there, I was like, wow, he's really going to do this. How often, as a guy who spends time with top-level fighters, is a top-level fighter, does that happen in the gym?
It's pretty rare getting stuck in a twister. Yeah, like you have to kind of take a long pause to get stuck in that position long enough for them to be able to finish you.
So you've never been caught in a twister then, right, Mr. Fitch?
Not that I can remember, I wouldn't think. I think, I don't think I've ever been submitted in a live go with the twister.
With the twister. Now, we'll get to the upcoming UFC card next weekend, which I'm actually really excited about. You got a couple belts on the line. Is it 2 or 3? There might be even a third belt. I know Jermaine Randamé is fighting Amanda Nunes in the undercard. I really want to see Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington. I've got Covington. We'll get into that. But we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the Andy Ruiz-Joshua rematch. And,
a little disappointing.
It was disappointing. I just felt like, number one, Joshua took it way more serious. He came in 15 pounds lighter. He looked like a completely different fighter. He was dancing around. He was getting
really
1-2s and out, 1-2s and out, 1-2s and out. I don't even know if he threw a 3-punch combination. Ruiz just never seemed to be able to get in on the inside like he was able to do in the first fight. There was maybe, I would say, 3 exchanges that were a little bit wild, but they didn't take place with more than 3 punches. Whereas in the first fight, when Joshua knocked him down and they came back, you're talking about 7 or 8 thrown by each guy, and who gets caught gets caught. He had a great game plan. I think Ruiz made a mistake coming in 15 pounds heavier. I don't know whether he gets in the inside.
Too heavy.
But what do you think of the third match?
He should have probably come down. He probably should have come down, been a little bit lighter, a little bit faster. You're going to have to be in better shape. Like, I don't know that they either. I don't know, man. He already got to the top, and that's as high as he ever wanted to get. So That's all as high as he's gonna get, I guess, maybe.
You think the hunger and the fact that now he's probably
It's like, oh, I got it, I
$15
did
million?
it. That's what I wanted. Maybe it wasn't in his head to like be the reigning heavyweight champ for a long time or whatever. He just wanted that one time to win it, the Buster Douglas.
That one piece.
Just wanted to get it that once. And sometimes when you get to the top of the mountain, you're good. Like I've seen guys do that. I've seen guys in high school wrestling, they make it to the state finals, or they win the state their freshman year or sophomore year, and then they never go back again because they already did it. They already accomplished the thing. So I don't know if that happened to him, but like you'd think he'd have better game planning with his coaches. Like that's probably what Joshua's going to do, right? He's going to jab. He's going to be long. He's going to stay away. Mm-hmm. So like if that's what the guy's going to do, you're going to have to be in a lot better shape. You're going to have to use a lot more movement to get inside. So like coming in 15 pounds overweight, Jesus Christ. Like, what are you thinking?
No,
unless he's thinking, I'm just going to get inside and one punch him.
The third fight. I mean, I want to see the third fight. Let's see if Ruiz is going to get into shape. They've obviously got time to do it, right? We've got the Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury rematch on tap. There's not a lot of other big, visible heavyweights out there, so it does make sense.
That could be one of the other things, too, in his head. Is like he's in training camp. It's going hard. He's like, oh, well, if I don't win this fight, I'll at least get a rematch anyways, and we'll do the
trilogy.
The trilogy.
Yeah. Well, they are doing it. It looks like they are.
That could have played a factor in it too, of him not trying that hard, relying on another fight.
Well, it's financially viable. They did record numbers in the UK for pay-per-views.
Yep.
They did Sky Box Office did 1.6 million in pay-per-views. For people that don't understand how this works,
I'd watch it again. I'd watch him fight again because I still want to see the fat kid with the Snickers bar contract. I want to see the fat kid do good.
I want to see it again too. I'll be watching it. And again, with 1.6 million pay-per-view buys out in the UK and them not being a part of the DAZN deal, the DAZN deal is just in the United States, just like the UFC and ESPN deal is just in the United States. And I've got some terrible news on that for the fans. If you were like me and you can't stand ESPN Plus and you don't want anything to do with it and you've got Fight Pass and you were using a VPN, yeah, the UFC did away with that 4 days ago. So now when you log in with a VPN, it will not give you any access to Fight Pass whatsoever. They're going to try to juice you for that $65 because you got to have that $4.99 paywall. They're going to give you a ton of commercials you don't watch. Oh, and that's right. For the card that was this week, you don't even fucking get it because it's on ESPN regular, and you've got to have cable to fucking watch it. So right there, UFC... I don't know what to tell you other than what a terrible business plan. A guy like me would be willing to plunk down.
No, everybody wants to bitch and complain and say, oh, the Ali Act killed boxing, whatever. No, like the thing that fucked with boxing was the paywalls. Mm-hmm. Like everything started going to pay-per-view. All the big fights went to pay-per-view. People started feeling ripped off. That's the big thing that changed with boxing. And now they're doing it all over again with MMA. It's going to leave a sour taste in people's mouths. It's going to become less popular. People are going to be complaining about the product.
I agree. Yeah. And, I really hope they turn it around. I don't have a lot of confidence they're going to turn it around, John, as we've seen what their business practices are like in the past, and they really don't have anything to do with the happiness of the customer out there. Like you said, Big Mac's not steak. Let's take the quick buck. Let's not try to build anybody. And I see that more and more in the UFC. So let's talk about the upcoming card, right? We got a big card this weekend. We've got Colby Covington finally getting his shot.
Colby and Usman.
Yep, in the 170 division. Now, John, we've been hearing that you maybe made some phone calls last week for your Bellator shot against Lima. I don't see anybody else lining up to fight Lima. What's going on here?
We're still trying to get an answer, I guess.
Dude, it's ridiculous. No one wants to step up to the plate against Lima. Larkin's got to fight. You're the only guy. And look, Douglas does look better than he looked 3 years ago. I think you guys make a great matchup. I think he's a tougher guy than he is a few years ago. But I think that you have more than a shot. Again, you haven't lost since 2014. So what do you got to say again to Scott Coker if he's not listening?
Scott, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's bring the belt back to San Jose, California. We need it.
I love it. John, so who do you got? You got Covington? You got Kamaru? Fake news man.
I think, I think Colby might probably get it done.
I think Colby's got it, man.
I think Colby gets it done.
I was surprised Usman used Woodley the way he did. Again, it was surprising to me. Doesn't mean anything at top tier level. When you get to that level, almost anything can happen. But the way Covington has looked with his hands, taking out guys like Maya, pretty easily, especially when you see somebody like what's his name get retired by him, Askren get retired on him.
Yeah,
it shows that there's some tough people left in that division. I still think it's one of the better divisions in the UFC. I think it's more solid than say 185, maybe not 155. That seems to be about the deepest division out there. But 145, 205 is almost a joke at this point. I really think there's only about 8 high-level guys, and they don't want any of them fighting John Jones. In fact, they're putting 2 of the most high-level guys against each other to try to avoid a fight with Jones, in my opinion, with Blachowicz now fighting Corey Anderson. Blachowicz makes people look bad even when he loses. So the idea that they didn't want to give Corey the shot, they wanted to give Reyes the shot, it looks like, again, they're propping up another W for their moneymaker, John Jones.
Yep, they got to keep him winning fights. Plus, they don't want to give somebody else access to pay-per-view money.
It's a good point. They've probably already got it worked out with him, whatever those deals are. I'm not sure how it relates.
Yeah, why give somebody else a chance? And then now you've got John Jones, the ex-champ, who gets pay-per-view money, and a new champ who gets pay-per-view money. They don't want that.
You got an opinion on the Durandame?
They got boats. They got boats to pay for. I said a long time ago, Nunes she's a savage. I don't see anybody beating her for a while. Randall, she trained with us for a while. She's tough. She's, she puts that foot to your head, you're going out. But her wrestling is lacking, and I don't know if she has a lot of punching power. Accurate, but I don't know if there's a lot of power there.
I don't think she's going to step to her the way that Cyborg did, like you said, because she doesn't have that punching power. She is taller and lankier.
Yeah. She needs to stay outside, stay away, and try to use those kicks.
100%. And like you said, Nunes is such an animal and seems to only have improved over the last few years. It's hard to bet against her. I don't know what the odds are on that fight, but I'm certainly looking forward to it. Are there any fights coming up within the next month or so that are interesting to you, John? I know I kind of can't wait for the Fedor, Fat Fedor versus Fat Rampage fight on Bellator on New Year's Eve. I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Man, I don't have any big ones off the top of my head right now. I haven't been following it as closely as I should be, but man. Who is the guy good fight coming up? Did Aldo fight?
I can't believe they're trying to get him down to 135.
Yeah, that's just.
He looks awful.
I'm interested in this just to sake. Like, what are you doing? Like, is that even possible? Is he going to be alive at 135?
Alive at 135? They put him up against one of the biggest killers in the division, Moraes. It's not like they gave him a tune-up fight. They gave him, arguably the second most dangerous guy there because Cejudo beat him, And before that Cejudo fight, he was literally kicking the head off of people like Jimmy Rivera, looking unstoppable. We already know that all those had problems at 145. Is this the UFC trying to get rid of somebody who has a high-paying contract? I think that's what it is.
Very, very likely. Like, they're not going to give him the fights at 145 that he wants. So he's like, okay, well then I'll go to 135 and fight for the title and fight whoever. And like they do this, they manipulate fighters. Like, they take your toughness and use it against you.
Well, you talk about tough. You've got Brian Ortega dropping out of the fight against the Korean Zombie, and then you've got Frankie Edgar stepping into that role. Now, the Korean Zombie is a handful for just about anybody out there. I was looking forward to the Ortega fight. But Frankie Edgar, he doesn't take fights lightly, but you've definitely seen, the age kind of creep in there, and he doesn't look as dominant as he once did. Is this a fight that, we could see him risk being retired in?
I mean, once you get to a certain age, like any fight could risk retirement, I guess. And I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't know the mentality. I don't know if some of the guys are just like, yeah, well, it's pro wrestling. Let's just do the pro wrestling thing, or are the guys hurting for money and they actually, oh fuck, like I need another 200,000. I better go to the gym. I got to fight. Like God, I don't know. Like I mean, it's such a frustrating thing for me, just because there's no merit system. So it's like, what are you climbing to? You're just fighting to perform now. Like I don't know. It's a mental barrier for me, I guess.
Well, I'm looking forward to the fight. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that Frankie Edgar comes in there top tier, and either we see a quick finish or a dominant performance. And that's not to say anything bad about Chan Sung Jung, but I've been such a Frankie Edgar fan for such a long time. His Gray Maynard fights, the 2 out of the 3, not the first one, the second and third one, are absolutely amazing. And Gray Maynard actually was released from the UFC this week.
Yeah, I saw it too.
Yeah, and you got to ask yourself, there's a guy that tried to climb that mountain, almost got there a couple times, didn't do it. A lot of people outside of the hardcore MMA fans don't know who he is right now. And, does he have enough money? Is he going to end up in Bellator or one of these other organizations like ONE FC, where they let you just, juice to the tits, where Vitor Belfort looks like a Greek Adonis again? I don't know if you've seen what Vitor looks like yet, but my God.
Oh, dude. Well, the KSW guys. Holy Jesus.
Oh,
my God.
Well, you know what?
Fights?
Blagovic came from there. So Jan Blagovic was the champ in KSW before he came to the UFC. Yeah. That should show you like how tough he is. He was fighting all those juice heads. And don't get me wrong, he was a little bulkier in that organization, but he's been able to make the transition against top tier guys. And like I said, that's why they're putting him against Corey Anderson. They're hoping that either he beats Corey Anderson or it goes 5 rounds and they don't have to give either of them a shot. Nobody looks dominant. And meanwhile, in my opinion, both those guys have a real shot at beating John Jones. The narrative I hear, I watched the Brandon Schaub JRE MMA podcast this week. And the narratives I'm hearing about how John Jones is just playing with his food and toying with his opponents. I don't know what fucking fight they watched, but I watched a fight against Thiago Santos where he almost lost to a guy that tore his fucking ACL in the 3rd round of the fight. It was 2-2 going in the 5th round, and it's not like John looked great in that 5th round. I gave it to him. I wasn't arguing with the decision, but to act like that was dominant and he was playing with his food really makes me question these so-called, independent MMA analysts and journalists when they say shit like that, Fitch.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, there's a lot of guys who they're just going along with what everybody else is saying. I think they hear something, or they listen to somebody else and they just repeat it. I don't know if they actually. A lot of guys don't know what the fuck a fight is. They don't even know what's going on. Even guys who have been in them, I don't think they really know what's going on. And then they're trying to comment on something, and they don't really know what the hell they're talking about. And it gets frustrating.
John Fish knows nothing.
I usually turn the sound down when I'm watching fights. I don't want to hear the play-by-play, because they're told they're supposed to push guys. They're supposed to hype guys up. They're supposed to be hype men. So they're gonna go over the top with it.
And they do. I mean, and one of the other things that really bothered me about the fights this week, and I know I'm going to get a lot of shit from people about this, but it was all related to the Stuart Scott Cancer Foundation. So literally, I caught everything from the early prelims on. So for the card didn't end till almost 1:30, 1:40 in the morning. There wasn't even walkouts until I think 12:50. Actually, no, I guess it ended a little after 1 because the walkouts were like 12:15. First punches thrown like 12:20. I had to watch Stuart Scott a baker's dozen times. I had to watch how this person's coach had cancer and they were, playing it up. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, so now, no one can say anything about cancer victims, but we don't know this charity they're working with. You know, let's be honest, 9 times out of 10, these large charities steal the fucking money. They're not curing cancer. They're not helping that guy.
They don't do anything.
Family.
They're whatever. They're nonprofit set up, and the people who work for them, they get paid. They're making $250,000 a year. The nonprofit doesn't make any money, and all the money that they collect goes to pay the staff, and then the rest of it goes to promotion and marketing.
And I mean, it's something you just got to deal with now with the UFC. I mean, I know that Bellator sometimes does it with the troops, and I know the UFC also does it with the troops. But with all these things, it's like, dude, I fucking came here to watch fights, and they're not fucking free. All right, I'm paying just to see these things. I've already got to watch your fucking commercials for P3 protein snacks with Cowboy in a fucking not a helicopter, Air Force fighter. I've already got to watch Hobbs and Shaw a baker's dozen times. I mean, do I also have to be made to feel guilty because I'm not supporting your cancer organization? It's just... It's getting so commercialized and over the top. It really is like WWE, man. It really
consumerism,
is.
Man. Consumerism is out of control. You have to buy something in order to consume a bunch of other stuff.
In order to see somebody's lip get knocked off like that. If you missed it, guys, that's the Overeem lip right there. That's after a 24-minute and 54-second battle. With a top-level heavyweight, and one shot can do that. You can watch it on Twitter. Normally, guys, we go for about an hour. Now, I've been doing this since midnight, and this is video number, I believe, 14 or 15 in the 24 and 24 hours, now that YouTube says they have no obligation to host anyone's video, so I'm probably going to wrap it up a little quicker. John, is there anything you want the audience to know that we should leave on?
No, you can check out, John Fitch Knows Nothing, my mostly daily podcast on YouTube and Podbean. But I'm wrapping up a book. All right, so I put together a weight cut book. My friend Mo, Mo.
Yep.
He's watched me do a number of weight cuts, and he's coached other guys and seen them struggle with the weight cuts. So he told me that I needed to write a book about my system for cutting weight. So, I put it all out, and I'm going to put together, I'm going to have that book available hopefully before Christmas, but at least maybe around New Year's. We'll see. I got to put the final touches on it. I'm trying to get some pictures for it from Bellator. So we'll see, but it's a quick read, and, you see kind of the crazy stuff that goes along with making weight.
Well, John, you're in stellar shape, not only for your age, but any age, really. And I wish I was in that kind of shape. I don't know that I have the discipline to have the meal prep and the plans that you do. You've talked about it extensively on John Fitch Knows Nothing. I hope people go check that out. I want to remind everybody that if you want to catch the audio version of this podcast, it'll be posted tomorrow on thegruelingtruth.com. We're going to go over all the fights next week like we do every week, and normally we're going to do an hour, but you really need to check out John Fitch from 12:30 to 1:30, 5 days a week Eastern time, and that's 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. over on the West Coast. Join the conversation. John does great work over there. I want to remind everybody to subscribe to this channel. Thumbs it up. It's 25 videos in 24 hours. I'm giving away all my stuff for free. Christy Dopp will be coming up in a couple hours. I got Graham Elwood coming up. I'm going to say hi to him for you, John Fitch, and tell him the Yellow Belt story. And if you want to financially support me, I got to GoFundMe. That's how I'm doing it. 3 to 7 times a day on the Norm with your help. With that being said, guys, I want to thank John Fitch. Thank you. And we will see you on the flip side.
All right, guys. Later.